How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
My fellow Americans, welcome across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Those of you who pay attention to golf, you'll remember the great division between the PGA and Live Golf. Live Golf decided it would do 54 holes of golf instead of 72 holes of golf like the PGA, and make the tournaments not last as long and the play would be fast. They're announcing for 2026 they're going to go to 72 holes as if it's a brand new concept. It's actually what every other golf tournament in the planet does. I guess they're going to call it Lexi, L-X-X-I-I. I guess they'll call it Lexi Golf or something like that. Sexy Lexi Golf. It's so stupid. Just get rid of Live. Go back to the PGA Tour, people. All right. I digress randomly. You know, just momentarily. I'm getting to the news, I promise. I just want to say that I have gotten to the age where if I leave my wallet in my back pocket, it's like, what have I done to my hip? No, it's just my wallet. Getting old sucks, people. Not that old, but still. All right. There are elections today across America. Let's focus on the elections. In New York, Mamdani is probably going to win. I thought it was very interesting that he has started getting real comfortable telling people, articulating his positions on things in ways perhaps he had not been in the past. Now it's just kind of a more matter-of-course thinking for Mamdani as he, stakes out positions on being a democratic socialist, you name it. He's way more comfortable knowing he's probably won the election. And by the way, the polls have gotten closer in New York. I just don't think Andrew Cuomo is going to be able to win. I don't think he's going to be able to win because he killed a lot of people's grandmothers. I had this argument with my agent the other day. He was on my front porch on Sunday, and I made that comment. That's not true. Ron DeSantis... No. The data bears it out. And I pulled up the data to prove to him the per capita death rate of people over the age of 65 was far lower in Florida than it was in New York, in particular New York City. The per capita deaths of senior citizens during COVID in New York was far higher than in Florida. And I pulled out the data and I showed it. And Mike said, we didn't know at the time. It's like, no. Here's the thing. In all honesty, and it's not a partisan point here, Ron DeSantis and Andrew Cuomo had the exact same data at the exact same time. Ron DeSantis read the data and determined it was a bad idea to send senior citizens who had been infected with COVID back to nursing homes. And you will recall he ordered them to stay out of the nursing homes. If they went to the hospital, they had to stay in the hospital. They weren't allowed back to the nursing homes. And Andrew Cuomo sent them all back. And they spread COVID. And many of them died. And that did not happen in Florida. Andrew Cuomo and Ron DeSantis dealt with the same problem at the same time, and the per capita death rate of senior citizens was lower in Florida. The overall death rate in Florida was lower, and the Democrats then started to say, it's sunnier in Florida, and DeSantis let people go outside, and they were on the beaches, and COVID doesn't spread on the beaches, except you Democrats were forcing people to stay inside, and remember, you had Gavin Newsom arresting people who went to the beach. My point here is not to relitigate COVID. My point here is to note that running a man in New York City for mayor who couldn't win the Democratic primary and then decided his best shot was bullying Curtis Lewa to get out of the race so that he could take his votes without ever having to make the case to those voters, many of whom lost their grandparents to Andrew Cuomo's policies, was not a good idea. Of course the commie was going to win. Like Megyn Kelly said a short time ago on this program, she resents being put in the position where she had to support Andrew Cuomo to stop a communist. And Mamdani is embracing being at least a democratic socialist. He's not saying that he's a communist, but he's saying he's a communist in his wording as he danced around. And it was very notable that he went on Morning Joe. And he's now starting to say things like, well, let's just go with this from Morning Joe this morning.
To go back to Joe's previous question, I've talked to Jewish New Yorkers who like your message of affordability. They think it's the right message, but then they go back and they say, well, he supports BDS. He won't condemn the language of globalize the intifada. He seemed to play both sides after October 7th in his initial statement. They're deeply worried that you have some animosity for Jewish people and for the state of Israel. How do you respond to that?
Look, I think critiques of the state of Israel are critiques of a government as opposed to critiques of a people and of a faith. And my job is to represent every single New Yorker, and I will do so no matter their thoughts and opinions on Israel and Palestine, of which millions of New Yorkers have very strong views, and I'm one of them.
Would BDS be the policy of your administration as mayor?
I've said that I would support and have supported nonviolent movements to bring about compliance with international law. And where this mayor has violated and looked to violate that kind of law, I would bring us back into compliance.
So yes.
No, I'm talking about compliance.
Okay.
Right? And I've said that I support BDS because this is a movement that is looking for that kind of compliance. We haven't seen it.
So yes, he supports the boycott, divest movement when it comes to Israel. He's now willing to say that on Election Day in New York after having denied it. And I just find that in and of itself very, very notable that he's now getting more comfortable with this. There's also this exchange.
Yeah, explain the difference. What is the difference between a Democrat, a democratic socialist, and a communist?
Well, I'm a democratic socialist who's also a Democrat.
Right.
And when I say I'm a democratic socialist, I explain it in the words of Dr. King from decades ago, who said that call it democracy or call it democratic socialism, there must be a better distribution of wealth for all of God's children in this country.
Right.
And what I actually find is that when you're speaking to New Yorkers, they ask you less how you describe your politics and more whether there's room for them in that politics. Right. And New Yorkers are asking me, does your politics have room for my struggle to afford my rent, my childcare, my groceries? And frankly, President Trump ran an entire campaign focusing on the cost of living, focusing on the promise of cheaper groceries. And his inability to do so is now making him increasingly desperate to try and stop the campaign that will actually deliver on the same diagnosis that he shared.
Yeah, except it won't. But notice he's now embracing democratic socialism, which is communism. The democratic socialist government of Germany was the communist East Germans. There's got to be a better distribution of wealth for all God's children in this country. That's communism. But communism still has a battle. You know, they're willing to embrace democratic socialism now. And in a few years, they will totally be willing to embrace the label communism. And he's going to get elected in New York City. The question is New Jersey. The polling in New Jersey and the election day turnout thus far in New Jersey is far closer than a whole lot of people imagined. And the Democrat in New Jersey and the Democrat in Virginia, Abigail Spanberger, they were picked to not rock the boat, to be very milquetoast, bland candidates. And they've been terrible on the campaign trail. And now you got a Republican who could actually win in New Jersey. Now, the odds are with the Democrats, but it's possible. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger is going to win. Now, part of the reason she's going to win is, keep in mind, the government's been shut down now since October 1st. So federal employees who lean Democrat in Northern Virginia, they've had a lot of time to go canvass for her. They've had a lot of time on their hands to knock on doors. They've had a lot of time. Part of me does wonder if the Democrats have decided to keep the government down the way they have so that they can use this for shutdown politics spin. Because the midterms actually aren't going to be great for the Democrats. And if they've gotten federal workers off the job now for how many days, those federal workers have been able to canvass and early vote and knock on doors and drive up turnout. And Democrats tomorrow can say, see, look at the turnout, look at the turnout. Well, yes, because these people have had lots of time on their hands. But what's notable is that Winsome Sears has actually closed stronger. She's not a good candidate. I like Winsome Sears. You're not hearing me insult Winsome Sears. I'm just saying she's not a good candidate. For those of you who don't understand why Winsome Sears is not a good candidate, let me explain things to you. Winsome Sears has talked about campaigning in the Norfolk area. That's Norfolk, Virginia. The people who live in that area call it the Tidewater area, not the Norfolk area. Why? Because there's Norfolk, there's Virginia Beach, there's Portsmouth, there's Chesapeake, there's Newport News. That whole area is called the Tidewater area. When you say you're in the Norfolk area, not the Tidewater area, you alienate the people in those other communities. I know this because my sister and her husband lived there for years because he was in the Navy. In the same way, Southwest Virginia is called Southwest Virginia. It's not called the Southwest, and Winsome Sears referred to it as the Southwest. The Southwest is Arizona and New Mexico. Southwest Virginia is Southwest Virginia. And Winsome Sears knows these things, but she just hasn't been good on the campaign trail. She's a great person. She's been a fantastic lieutenant governor. She's just not a good campaigner for governor in Virginia. Abigail Spanberger, on the other hand, has been a terrible campaigner for governor, and she just benefits from a Democratic environment. It's been wild to see just how terrible Abigail Spanberger has been. She can't answer questions. She's tried to avoid the press to avoid answering questions. She can't get the trans question right. Winsome Sears made the trans issue a big issue, but here's the problem for the GOP. I need to tell you this, and Philip, you can cut the small segment out of this monologue here at the end if you want to. Republican candidates have to be careful when they talk about the transgender issue. And too many Republicans are doing it the wrong way. What I mean by that is very simple. The transgender issue for Republicans should be a signal to voters that Democrats don't care about you and your issues. They care about fringe issues. When you make the transgender issue just about transgenderism, well, you've already got those voters. You already got the people as a Republican who oppose boys and girls bathrooms. So if you talk about boys and girls bathrooms and girls and boys bathrooms as just that issue alone, you're not gaining voters. If you talk about those issues in a way that signals to voters, the Democrats, they don't care about you at all, but I, a Republican, care about you and your issues, you're going to win. You have to be careful. There's a fine distinction there. When Donald Trump did his ad, Kamala Harris cares about they, them, Donald Trump cares about you, it made the trans point, but it used the transgender point to make the larger point that Kamala Harris only cares about the weirdo freaks at the far left of the Democratic Party, and Donald Trump cares about you and all your issues. And that ad was powerful for him. Republicans and Democrats alike credit that ad for helping Donald Trump win the election. So if you're just using the issue of transgenderism to target transgenderism, you've already got those voters on the right if you're opposed to it. How you use that issue to expand the coalition matters, and you use that issue to signal to voters that the Democrats are so captured by a woke progressive mob that they can't focus on the issues that matter to the working class and the middle class. If you do it that way, you're going to win. In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you can only pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they've upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How's it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and for all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Hello, my friends. It's Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, let me go to the phones. Caleb, you're up next. Welcome to the show. Caleb? Uh-oh.
Hello.
There you are, Caleb.
There?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. My question for you is just simple. I want to know how we live in this world with people who think differently than us. And it's like there's three different worlds that we live in, the left, the right, and the middle. And nobody can see where other people are coming from. And everybody votes how they feel. But it's like everybody has their own facts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. We used to, and in fact, I was actually just scrolling Instagram right as we came back, and my buddy Ben Domenech has a picture up of him shaking hands with Dick Cheney, and his caption is a picture from a very long time ago in America where you could disagree strongly about important things while still having deep respect for the person on the other side. And we've lost that to a degree in the country because a lot of people in the news infotainment industry have decided they must keep everyone in existential crisis at all times, that the world is going to end if the other side wins. And it makes it harder to have friends on the other side. And part of that, what's coupled with that, is that nobody knows anybody anymore. You have a small friend group. You don't have a big friend group, and you don't know your next door neighbor. And on the left, it's even more pernicious. It is a fact, whether you want to believe it or not, and there's ample research to show you from Harvard, from Yale, from Johns Hopkins, and outside groups that progressives have isolated themselves mostly in urban enclaves now, and they're far likely to know anyone who doesn't believe like them, and to the extent they do, it's the people who don't talk politics. And so the left just assumes they agree. In urban areas, conservatives tend to keep their mouths shut because they don't want to get in trouble. You got to actually take the time to meet and understand and interact with and maybe become friends with people who disagree with you. You have to do it. It's unhealthy to just live either isolated or in a bubble of people who are just like you. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given is from Tim Keller, the late theologian, who we were agreeing to disagree on something, and he pushed me to still interact with people I disagree with. And he said, you're a Christian, so you believe every single person is made in the likeness and image of God. And if they are, it behooves you to try to find how God is reflected in that person you disagree with. Maybe you'll never find it. Maybe they'll never show it, but you should try to find it, which means you have to be able to be friends with people who disagree with you and understand and appreciate the people you disagree with. And I think he was right. And we all need to do that, including progressives. Now, I need to tell you about Vision Computers. I actually had the situation yesterday. My agent, we were sitting at a table, and he looked at me and says, is this legitimate? And it was a link to change the password for his Apple iCloud account, and it actually was legitimate. I could tell it was legitimate, and I told him as much. But these sorts of things come up more and more with computers. And, you know, if you have managed IT for yourself, for your home, for your elderly parent, for your business, someone calls and scams you, you get a text message, it's a very sophisticated scam, you can actually call Vision Computers, put them on the phone with you, do a conference call, and chase the scammer away. Let Vision handle whether or not you're being scammed and help you deduce it. It's a great benefit with their managed IT service. You call them at 404-COMPUTE today, and you sign up for yourself, for your family, for your senior citizen loved one, for your business, 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Let Vision Computers take care of all your computer needs. Have you heard about Cove Pure? You may have one of those water pitchers you put in your refrigerator. Well, you can get the Cove Pure, put it on your countertop, and you get hot water, cold water. It's all really good filtered water. You can pull the pitcher out of it and pour, or you can put a cup under it, and it's got the buttons for like a 6 ounce, an 8 ounce, or a 16 ounce glass. You push it, you say, I want it hot, I want it cold. It fills up the glass exactly the way you want it. Even a custom option if you've got a 20 ounce glass or big Yeti tumbler, whatever you need. It just works, and the water is great. Uses reverse osmosis, among other things. I've been drinking way more water since I got one of these on my countertop in the office. If you're looking for a gift that's good for a loved one they'll actually use, get them the Cove Pure. I partnered with them. They'll give you a special $250 holiday discount. Go to covepure.com/Eric. That's C-O-V-E, Cove, Pure, Pure.com/Eric, E-R-I-C-K. $250 off, covepure.com/Eric. The sale's going to end, so you better hurry up. Hello, welcome. It is Eric Erickson Nationwide. I want to make a point to you that will put in focus the government shutdown. I want you to understand what we're dealing with right now. The Insider Advantage poll in Virginia has Abigail Spanberger up 10 points. The YouGov poll has her up 15 points. Qantas Insights has her up 9 points. The Trafalgar Group has her up 7 points. She's probably going to win. Atlas Intel had her up 9 points on Saturday. The Hill Emerson had her up 12 points. It's pretty clear that Abigail Spanberger is going to win. Her polling average is 10 points, and the fact of the matter is she's been that way for some time. But let's go back where the polling trends were on October 1st. On October 1st, I'm scrolling back the Real Clear Politics polling average. Abigail Spanberger was up 7 points. She's up 10 points now. That's the Real Clear Politics polling average. Abigail Spanberger was up 7 points at the beginning of October in the polling averages. She's now up 10 points in the polling average. In the year of our Lord 2013, Terry McAuliffe was running against Ken Cuccinelli for governor of the state of Virginia, and there was a government shutdown in October of 2013 over the funding of Obamacare. Ken Cuccinelli lost a point a day in the polls. Every day the government was shut down, Ken Cuccinelli lost a point in the polling. In the year of our Lord 2025, we are now at the longest government shutdown, and Winsome Sears has lost 3 points. Ken Cuccinelli was down more than 15 points by the time the government shutdown was open. By the time the government was reopened after the shutdown, Winsome Sears is only down 3 points between October 1st and November 4th. She's going to lose the election. She has not run a good campaign. She's a great person. She's been a great lieutenant governor. She's run a bad campaign. But she's only lost 3 points in the polling since October 1st. She was down 7 points. Now she's down 10 points. That's a 3-point decline. Ken Cuccinelli was down 1 point in the polling. When the government shutdown started, he was down more than 15 points when the government reopened. It's pretty staggering. A lot of the angst of federal employees is already baked in. This is not going to have a significant impact on Republicans across the country. It's just not. We'll see where the actual election results are tonight, but it's very notable that the shutdown doesn't appear to be having a massive impact in Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia is interesting because the Northern Virginia counties are overwhelmingly, the Arlington, Alexandria area, the Prince William County area, they're overwhelmingly filled with federal employees, many of whom have time off now and aren't getting paychecks because of the government shutdown. And the Democrats, to a degree, have leveraged the government shutdown and the angst of federal employees to help shape the Virginia election. But it's not having the impact that it once had, and it's not going to have the impact that it could have had because most Americans actually aren't feeling the effects of the shutdown. And the media still, by and large, doesn't want to cover the shutdown. The Democrats, by the way, in the past hour have voted yet again to keep the government shut down. There doesn't appear to be a massive push by the Democrats to reopen the government before the election. Now, I think it's probably going to happen probably this week. It would be nice if they reopen it before I hit the road on Friday. Make it a lot easier with air traffic control. I got a buddy of mine who's flying from Washington, D.C., and given the delays on flights there, we're a little bit concerned about him meeting me in Las Vegas for this trip. But I'm hoping at some point very soon the government decides to reopen. This is Frank Luntz on CNN earlier talking about the shutdown.
How do you think
Well, that's not going to help you guys at all. Hang on a second. Let's see if I can re-get this taken care of here. There we go. Sorry, tech support on the fly.
could affect the outcome?
Or maybe not. Frank Luntz on CNN earlier says he actually thinks that the blowback is going to be for the Democrats, that you're not going to see this massive angst on the voter side, that to the extent there is fallout now, it's the Democrats who are getting hurt.
How do you think this could affect the outcome tomorrow, might affect the shutdown? I mean, two big things that are happening with lots of political dynamics. It's just a crucial time as people are suffering, Frank. How do you think that could affect things?
You're correct. And this is the breaking point. When you don't pay our men and women in uniform, and they have to go without their weekly paychecks, and you start to have people who cannot afford their food and fuel, then it starts to have an impact. And then people start to say, why is this happening? I believe that the shutdown is politically motivated. I believe that if they wanted to, they could find common ground, but they choose not to. And that has hurt the Republican brand, the Republican reputation. Their numbers are down, as you point out in your own polling of Donald Trump. But the numbers that have fallen the worst, to my surprise, are the Democrats. Everyone is being hurt by this. Everyone's credibility and respect, and looking at the government, and the public just looks at this and says, why? Why can't you find some agreement? Why can't you give? Why can't you cooperate? And that's going to be a very big question Wednesday and Thursday when this election is over. It is hurting the Republicans, but it seems to be hurting the Democrats even more.
Yes, it seems to be hurting the Democrats even more. Now, this is a little more from Luntz.
Does the shutdown impact decisions in a state like Virginia teeming with federal employees, or even in both states, Frank, with furloughed workers, with SNAP benefits hitting a wall over the weekend?
Yeah, this is the first time I've ever said this on live television. You actually don't need me, because what you're saying is exactly what I'm hearing from the voters. In Virginia, there are so many government employees or family members of the government employees or someone whose best friend is a government employee, and they're fed up with this. You hear people complaining about airports being long lines and flights being delayed. You hear people complaining about not getting their paycheck, which is real. There are so many people in America that live paycheck to paycheck, and they can't afford to miss even one check. And right now they're in pressure, they're under pressure, and they're in trouble, which is why I actually expect the government to reopen by next week, be another week from now, because in the end, nobody wants to be held responsible for people literally starving.
Wow.
Yeah, he's right. And SNAP benefits are going to run out even with the extension. There is pain out there. And the question is, what is the deal? Senate Republicans are suggesting there are private conversations with a number of Democrats that the Senate will give a vote on health care. Now, Ruben Galeo of Arizona and a couple others say they're not even going to vote for that because the Republicans won't guarantee passage of what they want, which that's not how it works. They want the Republicans to side with them on this issue. The Republicans are like, nope, we'll give you a vote, but we're not going to support it. We'll just let it come to a vote. And well, if we can't get it, we're not going to reopen the government. But he's kind of an outlier now. There are a number of Democrats who recognize that the pain is going to be too much to bear very soon. We may not get a government shutdown resolved by the weekend, but by the end of the weekend, we may very well get the government shutdown resolved as we get to another week without paychecks for members of the military. We get to an end of the week where SNAP benefits haven't gone out. We get to an end of the week where people are really starving. Or in Virginia and New Jersey today, the Democrats have a good day and they say, you know what, the voters are with us. We can reopen the government knowing we're going to have good midterms. I think that's a misreading of things. But if that's what it takes for the Democrats to reopen the government, a lot of people will say so be it. And here's the thing you got to understand. What's going to happen is the Democrats are probably going to have a good day today in the election. They may even win Public Service Commission races in Georgia. Yeah, for those of you listening in Georgia right now, you have 2 Public Service Commission races at the top of the ballot. You want to vote for the incumbents against 2 far-left radicals, and the far-left radicals just might win because not enough Republicans are showing up. Republicans in Georgia are not showing up, which also there's something to be said for the great Republican turnout machine in Georgia has collapsed. The Republicans got lazy. They folded in. They broke apart their party. Their party started collapsing. Poor Josh McCoon, the current chairman of the Republican Party in Georgia, is doing everything he can to rebuild a party that the prior leadership collapsed, and he's struggling. He's doing the best he can, and he's got a lot of conspiracy theorists and others he's got to deal with, and the donors of the party have kind of alienated themselves from the party. The turnout machine is broken in Georgia for Republicans, and you may have 2 Democrats get swept into office today in Georgia. They're 2 far-left progressive radicals because Republican voters don't even know there's an election in the state of Georgia today. It should be a wake-up call for the GOP there. And the Democrats, if they win these 2 seats in Georgia, nationally it's going to be a big story because it'll show that Georgia's ripe for the taking for the Democrats now because the Republican Party's broken in Georgia. If the Democrats pick up Jay Jones in Virginia, even the Washington Post editorial board has now come out against Jay Jones, said vote Democrat for everything else, but don't vote for Jay Jones. If he wins, Democrats will say, look at that. Our voters are turning out. The Republicans are going to get crushed next year. We might as well go on and open the government now. The problem for the Democrats is the progressive base that will eat them alive. The progressive base that will be furious. Because what will they have gotten? A promise of a vote, but not a guarantee. And then they will have funded Donald Trump's agenda. And these people are convinced they're funding Hitler. So they're not. It's going to be tough for the Democrats one way or the other. But the Republicans, I will tell you, if you're a Republican in the Senate, you're listening right now, don't cut a deal with the Democrats. Just hold out for them to open the government and let the progressive base eat them alive and drive them further left. And that'll actually help you in the midterm elections. Now, let me go to the phones. David, welcome to the Eric Erickson Show. David, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm going to, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I want to say something to the anti-Semites in the left and anti-Semites on the right. Let's say tomorrow they take all the funding from Israel, not supporting America, not support Israel anymore, forever. What do you think will happen if the Chinese going to come and support Israel? Israel will bring the Chinese fleet into the Red Sea and to the Mediterranean. What's the gain for the United States of America if this is going to happen?
David, I'll tell you the God's honest truth. The anti-Semites on the left and the right want that to happen because they like China more than they like us. The anti-Semites on the left and the right hate the United States. You've got Tucker Carlson going to Moscow saying how much nicer Moscow is than any American city and how great the Russians are and how great the food is and how great the bread is. You've got the Nick Fuenteses of the world bashing the United States. You've got Candace Owens spreading conspiracy theories about the United States. They all love China. In fact, the Chinese fund a lot of this stuff surreptitiously. The Chinese want to elevate these voices on TikTok. They elevate these sorts of voices. Yes, if we abandon Israel, Israel's going to look for a strong partner. The next strongest partner is China, and they would love Israeli technology, which they can't get their hands on right now because of Israel's alliance with the United States. They would gladly cut bait from some of these third world dictators in the Middle East and join up with a modern first world nation like Israel. They absolutely would love to do so, and it would be to the detriment of the United States. you have a great opportunity to preserve a Western world order with the United States in the lead with Israel's assistance. And again, I would note that the number of people who complain about our relationship with Israel are always very suspiciously quiet about our relationship with Egypt, our relationship with the United Arab Emirates, our relationship with any other country. It's always Israel, always Israel. We give far less money to the Israelis than many of these other countries that they don't seem to care about, which should tell you everything you need to know about their concerns about Israel. Hello, my friends. It is Eric Erickson here, and the phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very, very happy to have you. Coming up at the top of the next hour, the former Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, joins me. I want to play this audio. This is from Fox News a short time ago from Mark Meredith.
Mark Meredith is live in Montclair, New Jersey. Several bomb threats have disrupted voting at various polling sites this morning, but has that calmed down, Mark?
Dana, it appears so. Good morning to you. Election day in New Jersey got off to a rocky start after, as you mentioned, there were multiple email threats issued to different polling centers all across the Garden State. The good news, all of these have turned out to be hoaxes so far, but we know officials across New Jersey are taking this seriously. We've heard from the Attorney General as well as the Secretary of State of New Jersey, who says law enforcement has determined that there are no credible threats at this time. We are doing everything in our power to protect voters and poll workers and coordinate closely with state, local, and federal partners to ensure a smooth and safe election.
Now, what's so notable is this happened when school started in the country. There were a massive number of bomb threats, and it turned out to all be from Hungary, Eastern Europe, places like that, scammers, Romania and elsewhere. Targeted scams, and it appears to be targeted scams again in New Jersey today, calling in bomb threats. They have to take precautions. They got to shut down polling locations. They got to check. The reaction from Americans is typically, it's the SOB on the other side who did it, but actually, no. It is there's a growing body of evidence that this is a targeted Eastern European campaign funded by the Russians to sow discord in the United States. I'm not making that up. They did it with the bomb threats for schools. They're doing it now, bomb threats on Election Day. This is a growing pattern and concern. And what they do is they do it over the internet. They make phone calls over the internet. It looks like they're calling from a local number when they're not. And people have to, for security purposes, have to check it out, and it causes a delay in the polling. There are elections across the United States, New Jersey, New York, the mayoral race. There are local elections in my home state of Georgia, a lot of city councils up for re-election. In Atlanta, there's the Public Service Commission race. And those of you in Mississippi, you've got special elections throughout your state today. Across the nation, there are a lot of elections. Not the big election, not the midterms, not the presidential election, but there are still a lot of big races out there, and you got to pay attention to them. When we come back, the former Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, is going to join me to talk about his new book, Dick Cheney, The Rise of Anti-Semitism on the Right. We got a lot to discuss, but first I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank. They're my bank. Those of you listening out, Freedom 96.9 in Oklahoma City, they're headquartered in your city in Oklahoma, and they would love to do business with you. They're an online bank, but they're available in every state, and you can deposit cash. I have a checking account, and I have a savings account, and you can go to oldglorybank.com/Eric today and sign up with them, oldglorybank.com/Eric. Old Glory Bank has been my bank now for probably 2 years, my checking and savings account with them. They do mortgages, they do CDs, they're a fully functioning bank. If you're a business, they have business checking, business savings options. They've got lending options for you. Even though they're an online bank, they really get to know their businesses, and they're by conservatives for conservatives. They're the fastest growing bank in the country. They wanted to fight back against the debanking trends from the left in this country. Go to oldglorybank.com/Eric today. You can find out more at oldglorybank.com/ERICK, oldglorybank.com. It's a fantastic bank. It is my bank. It can be your bank. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply.